I guess not a lot of people know for certain that they're going to die. It's just a little bit ironic that I'm going to die at the hands of the military that I've been a part of for so long. You may not remember who I am. My name's Marcellus. I was a Roman soldier. There's thousands of us. Maybe someday people will remember who I am. See, the job of a soldier, well, it's kind of a violent profession. It's a thing we sign up for, well, our whole life, basically. I've been doing it for the last 8 years, and it involves, well, you know, everything from fighting in full-scale war to, well, to keeping the peace and generally policing the population. It's pretty violent. It's a thing where, you know, I've taken many lives. And at the same time, I've always known that I was prepared to die for what I was fighting for. Profession's not just about the fighting and the violence, though. Being a soldier is kind of a whole lot more than that as well. There's this whole allegiance thing, this whole worship of the gods that gets involved with being a soldier. You pledge allegiance not only to Rome, but to one man, to Caesar himself. And not only is it about pledging allegiance to that one man, it's also about seeing that man as a god and declaring that Caesar is divine and going through all of the worship and the rituals that involves. Worshiping Caesar means seeing him as a god. We put him on the banners that we carry into battle. We look to him for example and protection. That's what it means to worship Caesar. In some ways, I guess where I'm at now isn't that much different from where I've been. I'm still in an army. It's just not an army that follows Caesar. It's an army of the Lord. Jesus is my commander, and well, just like before, I guess I'm willing to die for Jesus, just like I was for Caesar. See, I converted to Christianity a few months ago. It was kind of a strange thing that happened. There was a couple that was a friend of the family, and I don't know what. One point they just started acting differently. I mean, they'd been good, upstanding Roman citizens before that, but all of a sudden they were different. There was something different about them, about the way they moved in the world, the way they treated people. They started associating with all kinds of people. I mean, all the upper class people, but all the scum of the earth, basically. The lower class people, the slaves, the non-Romans. More than that, though, it caught my attention because there was something about their way of being that changed. It was like they were all of a sudden radiating something different. So I asked them about it. I started to find out what it was that had changed for them. They said they'd been hanging around these group of people called the Christians. And I was really surprised because Christians, man, they were the lowest of the low. At least that's what I thought. I mean, they were just worthless people. Like if, I'll put it this way, if there was a Christian and a dog who had both been beaten bloody on the side of the road, I would have much rather helped the dog than the Christian. But even though they were hanging out with these Christians, there was enough that was different about their life that I had to find out what was going on. And so I went and talked to him in the middle of the night, so nobody saw us. And they started telling me more about this Jesus guy and how Jesus came back to life after he'd been killed on a Roman torture device. And they talked about how this Jesus is the one true God and the king above all kings. Talked about what it meant to follow him, not with pride and arrogance and violence, but humility and simplicity and peace and love for everyone. I mean, even love for people we call our enemies. I even heard them talk about, well, things like looking to God for our salvation, to Yahweh and Jesus for our salvation instead of Caesar. And they talked about the good news of Jesus being the good news of God's salvation instead of the good news of Caesar's military victories. I mean, they even talked about this one Christian evangelist who talked about putting on the armor of God instead of physical armor that soldiers wear, putting on things like truth and peace and righteousness and love, and only using those things for our protection. I don't know when, but it hooked me. Kind of happened over months and months of talking with them. All of a sudden, one day, I just realized that I had wholeheartedly become a follower of Jesus. And I also knew that meant I couldn't be a follower of Caesar. I could feel myself joining the army of God, which meant there was no way that I could still stay in the army of Rome. Maybe it happened when I read that Jesus said that no man can serve two masters, that he'll hate one and love the other. That was about the time that I got baptized. As soon as I got baptized, I realized I can't give allegiance to Rome anymore. My only allegiance is to God. And then, just a couple of days ago, well, that's when things really changed. A few days ago, there was a celebration of the emperor's anniversaries. It was a celebration which included worshiping the emperor, the Caesars, as gods. And there were thousands of us soldiers there. I mean, it was every bit the pomp and circumstance that you think it was. And right in the middle of this big celebration of Rome and of Caesar and of the military, well, I just couldn't take it anymore. I walked up right on the front steps of where everybody was gathered. And I took off all of my armor, all of my swords, everything, my helmet, and I threw it on the ground. And as loud as I could for everybody that was there, I shouted out, I will no longer serve the emperor. I will no longer serve the Rome. I am a Christian and I serve and worship the one true King, Jesus the Christ. I can no longer worship these idols that are deaf and dumb, but I worship the one true God. You might imagine that they weren't so thrilled with that. They pretty quickly took me into custody and shackled me up and threw me in jail. I mean, I don't really blame them for taking me into custody. Just a couple of years ago, I would have done the same thing because I was in their shoes. While I was sitting in jail a couple of days ago, my friend Lucius came to talk to me. Tried to talk me out of all of this. Lucius is, well, let's call him my battle buddy. He's probably the closest person in the world to me. closer than any other family or friends that I have. Lucius and I fought next to each other in more battles than we could count, spilled rivers of blood together, had each other's back in some of the most difficult situations. We had a love for each other. Lucius came to visit me in the prison. He tried to talk me out of it. He tried to tell me to take back the sword and throw myself on the mercy of the judge and of the commanders. I told him I couldn't do that. I don't serve this army anymore. I don't serve Rome anymore, and certainly not the Caesar. He told me that we'd fought together. He couldn't understand it. We'd had each other's backs for all of this. We killed our enemies together. I told him that I know all the stuff we've done together. But now I follow a commander that tells us to love people, to reject the use of violence, and even to love our enemies. He tried to tell me that, that I was going to die for this. And I said, yeah, I know. I've been ready to die for Rome. Why is it any different to be in the army of the Lord? I told him something Jesus said, which was that we shouldn't fear the one who can kill the body, but rather we should fear the one who owns both body and soul. Then early this morning, they came and got me for the trial. They surrounded the judge and me, a whole bunch of soldiers and other people watching. They read out the letter from my commander saying what I had done at the festival. The judge looked at me and said, "Is all of this true?" I said, "Yes." He said, "You really threw down your sword in front of the whole place?" I said, "Yes." He said, "What kind of madness possessed you to do all of this?" And I said, "No madness possesses the man who follows Jesus the King." I told him that I was a Christian and I was now serving in God's army, and that my new commander forbid me to use violence against anyone, to take anyone's life. I told him that we're supposed to be people of peace. By his example, we are supposed to be people whose only weapons are patience, hope, and love, to try and change the hearts of those around us. In fact, I told him that the only thing we're supposed to do is what Jesus did, and pray, "Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing." And that's when he really got to the question that's at the crux of the whole problem here. That's when he said, pretty angrily, "Have you forgotten the oath that you swore to the emperor? Have you forgotten that it's his image that is on the banners that lead you, that you pray to him for protection when you go into battle? Have you forgotten where your allegiance lies and who you pledged allegiance to and who you worship on a regular basis?" That's when I said, I can only worship Jesus alone. I can't worship these idols that are made out of wood and stone. My allegiance isn't to Caesar anymore. It's to the one true King, Jesus the Christ. And that's when he got really mad and said, "Fine, I've heard enough." By his own confession and his rejection of the oath that he swore, he must be punished. Take him away so that he can die by the sword. It's a bit ironic that I'm going to die this way. I've been ready to die for years. But to die at the hands of, well, my fellow soldiers, it's a bit strange. Although I will say, even though I've been ready to die before, This is different. I'm at peace in a way that I never was before. And yeah, maybe my story will get told, inspire someone else to follow Jesus. But even if not, this is a small price to pay for following my Lord and my God. Marcellus, it's time. Saint Marcellus the Centurion was killed in the year 258. The story that you've just heard is a true story and is based on the transcripts from his trial. Saint Marcellus is one of the early Christian martyrs who was killed for living Jesus' way of peace. His feast day is celebrated each year on October 30. In the Catholic tradition, the bones of important people are often kept on display as reminders of their story and to inspire us to deeper faithfulness. Some of the bones of Saint Marcellus are stored at the Notre Dame Basilica in South Bend, Indiana. They are stored under the main altar in the sanctuary. May you follow the way of Jesus. May you be a soldier for peace.